Good evening, I'm Kim Christensen.
And I'm Mark Salinger. The Clear Creek County Sheriff says his deputies bundled the initial investigation of a missing man from Idaho Springs.
A group of people in the community started searching, and they found his body over the weekend. The sheriff says that should never have happened. 9 News reporter Ria Jha has been following this story for days. And Ria, you spoke to the sheriff tonight.
Right, Clear Creek Sheriff Matthew Harris posted in an Idaho Springs community Facebook group tonight because he wanted to apologize directly for the way this was handled.
It's crystal clear that, we made a poor decision. And so we need to own that decision.
The Idaho Springs community organized a search party this weekend to find their friend Paul Peavy after he'd been missing for days.
We received a missing persons report on Wednesday evening. The deputy on duty made the decision not to go to the property.
We weren't up there for 3 minutes and we found Paul's body. It should not have been us. The authorities should have listened to us from the very beginning and acted on it, but they did not.
Clear Creek Sheriff Matthew Harris took to Facebook to tell the community they were right. It shouldn't have been them.
It's one of the things that, weighs heavy on my heart is that, these folks had to go and they had to see that. We should have been there side by side assisting on that.
Over the weekend, Harris defended the decision not to respond.
We didn't receive any information that person was endangered.
Now, he says their initial response failed to meet professional standards and was not acceptable.
The reporting party did report significant information that should have led us to respond on scene to that call. It was a misstep on our part, certainly.
Sheriff Harris said his office is now conducting an internal investigation on their response. He only posted this letter in an Idaho Springs Facebook group, wanting to address the community directly.
I promised the community and our commissioners I would be transparent. There's a lot of good police work being done, and it's unacceptable where it's not, and I'll call it out where it's not.
The sheriff said they have several strong leads on suspects in this case, but they're still trying to track down at least 10 of Peavy's missing Doberman puppies. Peavy was a dog breeder, and authorities believe the puppies may have been sold, maybe on social media. If you bought a Doberman puppy recently, the Clear Creek County Sheriff's Office wants to talk to you. Ria Jha, 9 News.
New tonight, Colorado Parks and Wildlife plans to capture and relocate some wolves that have been causing some troubles for ranchers. The agency says it'll track down members of the Copper Creek wolf pack. At least 3 of those pups are in the pack. They're the first confirmed to have been born in Colorado since the animal was reintroduced to the state last year. CPW says it made the decision to relocate them because they're killing livestock near their area, but the agency says this is not the precedent it plans to set on how it will resolve that kind of conflict moving forward. The agency will not share the current or future location of the pack to try and protect the animals.
Tonight, firefighters are mopping up a brush fire in the Roxborough Park area. It started this afternoon just east of the Foothills Water Treatment Plant, and it grew quickly. 9 News reporter Rachel Krause is at the fire station. Rachel, crews are going to keep an eye on this one tonight.
Yeah, West Metro says their Station 15 is pretty close to where that brush fire broke out earlier today, and crews here will keep an eye on the area here overnight, just in case any brush should spark back up. Now, West Metro says they were notified quickly when the brush fire started this afternoon, first from a caller and then from someone who knocked on the fire station nearby after seeing smoke. Crews responded quickly. About 43 West Metro firefighters, along with help from South Metro and a helicopter crew from Douglas County, dropping water on the flames. That fire spread to about 16 acres, but crews were able to get it contained quickly. As for the cause, Rhonda Schulting with West Metro Fire says investigators believe it was due to birds. At least 4 of them were electrocuted, she says. They caught on fire, hit the ground, and sparked that fire.
It's not a common cause of wildfires because really 90% of wildfires are human caused. So this is nature causing the fire, so it's not as often does this happen as you might think. I mean, obviously there's lots of birds, you see lots of birds on power lines, but it's just happened in this case, again, that a bird started the fire.
Schulting says, well, it isn't that common. It is the second bird-caused fire to have started in their district this year. They had another fire near the Fort restaurant around the time of the quarry fire, she says, and that too was caused by a bird. And while Schulting says crews do believe that the fire is out, folks in the area might see some smoke overnight just from embers burning out from that fire, but crews will make sure that that fire does not pick back up. Reporting live in Douglas County, Rachel Krause, 9 News.
Two of those fires caused by birds in West Metro alone, another one out east this year. Kathy Sabin, someone started to look into this.
I know. I feel terrible for the birds, first of all.
No.
Seriously.
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 But you haven't heard that much about that until now.
And you just don't want to picture anything about that.
No.
But thankfully, the fire managers were able to get on that grass fire quickly, because Kim and I were watching Sky 9 at 5 o'clock, and that thing took off because of the winds increasing out of the south and southeast. And while it wasn't an overly warm day today with highs in the mid-80s, it's been dry, and it will be dry for the rest of the week. So fire danger is something we'll be talking about all week long heading into the holiday weekend. 86 in Denver today. We have cooled back to the 60s, so it is just comfortable outside right now. Winds out of the south, picking up a little bit at DIA and across some of the Front Range foothill areas, but really not a big issue for us this evening. Dry weather this week, warmer weather tomorrow, and then the holiday weekend is actually looking pretty good as the monsoon moisture plume stays south of us. We're waiting on a cool front due in sometime tomorrow. Ahead of it, temperatures will warm. There won't be much on the radar, much like what we're seeing tonight. So no cloud cover and showers to cool us. Severe weather threat will stay east of us tomorrow and then shift north the day after that. So temperatures this evening in the 70s will trend down into the 60s overnight. And when that cool front arrives, yeah, the wind might pick up, but it will also kind of usher in kind of a taste of fall. We've got highs in the 70s for some areas on Thursday. The timing and impact of that coming up.
New tonight, voters in Fort Collins will decide in November whether to approve a tax hike to help fund Poudre schools. Tonight, the school board unanimously voted to send a mill levy to the ballot. It would provide up to $49 million annually to maintain schools, fund teacher and support staff salaries, and provide classroom materials. If voters pass it, homeowners will pay $25 for every $100,000 their home is worth.
In political news, today, special counsel Jack Smith filed a new indictment against Donald Trump over his efforts to overturn the 2020 election. This is in response to a Supreme Court decision in July, which found presidents are immune from prosecution for official acts while in office. In this new indictment, prosecutors argue that Trump did not have any constitutionally assigned presidential duties related to the post-election transition of power. 9 News legal analyst Scott Robinson says he expects Trump's lawyers to throw legal challenges at this indictment, just like they did the last one, and it could drag on past just this election cycle.
There's no way that there'll be any kind of substantive hearing, let alone a trial, prior to the November election. What that means is if former President Trump becomes elected as future President Trump, he'll be able to basically quash all of the federal cases against him, the only exceptions being the case in New York and the case in Georgia.
Trump pleaded not guilty to the initial indictment. He will have to enter a new plea in response to this new indictment. The Biden administration is attempting to roll out a new program that they say will help 500,000 immigrants stay in the United States. It's called Keeping Families Together program. Jennifer Piper with the American Friends Service Committee in Denver says it will allow people to gain access to parole, mainly if they are married to a U.S. citizen or a stepchild of one. The goal is to keep families together while waiting for an answer on their immigration case.
So in that way, it's really exciting. What was disappointing that we learned yesterday is that this program, it has a lot more restrictions that make it so that you aren't eligible than are in current law.
Those requirements mean that people who have just anything more than a traffic offense, in most cases, will not be eligible. The program will likely be subject to a drawn-out legal battle. In fact, just this afternoon, a federal judge in Texas ordered the Biden administration to temporarily stop approving applications for this program. President Biden released a statement calling the decision wrong and says it will cause families to be needlessly separated. Back here in Colorado, deputies in Douglas County focused on finding stolen cars for 2 months, and now they say they've recovered 17 of them and arrested nearly a dozen people. Sheriff's office says there's been a significant increase in people stealing cars across the county recently. In fact, there were just 33 in July alone. So they stepped up their focus on trying to stop that. Of the 11 arrests that they made, 4 of them were minors. The suspects were from anywhere from Colorado, Florida, Venezuela, even Colombia.
Two parks in Denver are temporarily closed tonight. Parks and Rec fenced them off, citing an increase in drug sales, vandalism, and violence. Lyle Lincoln Park, part of Sunny Lawson Park, and a green space along 14th Avenue will be closed for at least 30 days. However, access to the playground, the dog park at Sunny Lawson Park will remain open, and any event that requires a permit, baseball games, farmers markets, concerts, will be allowed to happen. The city says it reached out to permit holders to tell them about the closure and work with them so in case they wanted to adjust. Denver has closed parks before to discourage illegal and dangerous behavior. Civic Center Park has closed several times over the past decade, most recently between 2021 and 2023.